again, everybody. Here we go again. Let's just give everyone, like we normally do, just 1 minute or so. Yet another week with updates, which is hard to believe. And I'm done predicting when we're going to have updates, changes, whatever, have this stuff buttoned up. So I think the expectation is just continue to expect things to change on the fly here, because until further notice, that is just our reality. So again, give me 1 more minute here, and then I will introduce myself or reintroduce myself for those of you that are tuning in for the first time here, and we'll bust right into it. Okay. Yeah, and I got a couple of slides here to show. We had our for those of you that were with us last week, kind of a emergency press conference of sorts. We just kind of called on all of our stakeholders, largely you all that are school counselors, just to give you the latest and greatest. A significant new change that is still unfolding as we speak with these FAFSA corrections, that whole mess. So I will just kind of talk about that, give you the latest and greatest. There have been updates even since last Wednesday that are predominantly positive, at least in theory. We will see how it works in actual execution. But quickly, some housekeeping stuff. For those of you who are new, I'm Matt Carpenter. I'm representing College Aid Pro. I'm one of the founders here. Class 2025 is the 20th year that I've been guiding families and school counselors and anybody else that cares about this stuff or is in this ecosystem through this, right? And this year, I would argue, is probably the biggest mess, the most changes and whatever. FAFSA Simplification Act being, in hindsight, the most ironic name ever. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A. That's what I'm here for, right? We want to answer your questions. We got a couple team members on here, so fire at will. We will make sure to get your questions answered. If I can't do it live here, we will go back and go find the answer for you. And we are great with our follow-up, so please take us up on that. Any questions that you have, as always, I will put it in the chat here. We have a kind of just for school counselors email, counselor@collegeaidpro.com. And this is for anything. This is just kind of your dedicated email. Any questions you get that you need a sounding board for, please do that. We have someone, it's usually Anne-Marie Sanderson, where some of you guys, some of you know, is all over that 24/7. I have eyes on it. When we don't have eyes on it, somebody else does. So you're going to get a response to that. So please hold us to it. And again, put any of all of your questions in Q&A, and then I'm going to have a couple of links to share with you guys for resources today. So just kind of bear with me around that. But it is for you all. If anybody, if I see a ton of our schools that we currently work with on here, and that is always awesome to see. You guys are just such an engaged community, always trying to do what you can for your community. But that's my personal link for school counselors that want to, if we don't partner with your school right now, book some time with me. I'll learn about your school and your needs. I'll share more about how we partner with schools. Most of the schools we partner with don't have any type of budget, so most of our resources are free. Some schools do, and that's a different type of relationship, but we can have that conversation, and you guys can have a clear understanding of how we can support you and your community. So let's see, and I'll mention this a few times. We are doing another presentation for families, students and families, tomorrow night. This is focused on, there'll be some overlap with what we'll talk about today. This is focused on these most recent FAFSA changes, of which there are very recent FAFSA changes. So this is tomorrow night at 7 Eastern time. And let me just grab this right now. And we are focused on, so share this with your families. Okay, share this out today. We've sent some updates for you too, but we're going to take an hour to obviously answer all their questions. All this mess around the FAFSA signatures, and did we get they pull the wrong tax information? We're going to break that all down. And then we're going to get really focused on appeals, right? If you've been paying attention these last couple of weeks and months, something that we say all the time, I think we can all relate to this, right? Where there's adversity, there's opportunity. This is a perfect example of that. This mess of a FAFSA this year is creating real opportunities, financial opportunities for students and families that are all over this. And again, that's what we're going to focus on tomorrow night, because if you can have your appeal this year at the front of the line, you have much higher odds of having a successful appeal, right? You all know these colleges are scrambling. Like, you think that we and you all and parents and families are scrambling and anxious about this year and the FAFSA mess? Of course we are, rightfully so. I think if I had to pick kind of a body here, probably parents and families would be number one, but they're a close second. These colleges, right? They're freaking out. And as you know, a lot of financial aid counselors are part of our team, are my colleagues and friends. And so they're confirming what we thought. And that is, if you have your appeal in early, they're more likely to give you more money, because they're just trying to fill their enrollment, right? They want to make sure they don't have empty beds. That's the biggest concern for them. So they're just telling us, even if you don't have a great case, but you have your appeal in early, odds are in your favor. So we'll continue to talk about that a little bit today, but that's a big focus tomorrow night, to help families have these appeals ready. So as soon as we get these award letters, boom, we're at the front of the line for these appeals. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So for students that needs to fix the signature glitch issue, is that just a wait and see for when they can amend it? Yeah. Here's the latest and greatest there, and this is kind of the headline. It's a great question, kind of segue for the headline update for this week, and that is the DOE, Department of Education, has just announced that corrections, and again, this remains to be loosey-goosey, but they're aiming to have corrections available next week, right? So when we say corrections, that means this signature mess, and as it obtains to the signature piece specifically, they are saying that they are going to have specific instructions that they're going to send in the announcement to say, hey, here's you can now make corrections on your FAFSA, right? But if it's a signature glitch or issue that your family had, like the millions of family had and continue to have, here is how you make that specific fix, right? And supposedly they're going to spoon feed instructions to us. You guys know us. We are going to be all over it, and we are. We like to think that we coach it pretty, I think, succinctly too, right? You guys, most of you know my colleague Peg, right? She has this, I think, unique ability of taking what can sometimes be confusing instructions from the Department of Education and translating those into more usable, practical terms. So we will be doing our version of that to share with everybody as well, right? So stay tuned for that. Obviously, we'll share the announcement, but they said middle of March. Middle of March is officially Monday, right? But now they're saying next week they expect to have corrections available. So again, that could be the signature, that could be sending it to the right, the correct college, right? So a lot of families might have sent this FAFSA off in October. They've since added schools that they are more interested in, haven't been able to send the FAFSA there because they haven't been able to make a correction. That will be available next week. Or if you just made kind of a traditional mistake, we were one of these families that put the retirement accounts by accident on the FAFSA. We've since learned that was a mistake, and we want to update it. We'll be able to make those types of corrections. So any and all connections are next week. Okay. Yeah. So, you know, so this question in here is that there's a number of colleges, Hofstra is one of the examples, that have rolled out, you know, kind of their own FAFSAs, for lack of a better term, their own applications. Have we done any assessments of these homegrown or third-party tools to measure their accuracy? Here's the biggest challenge, and how we are we're coaching that, right? I mean, one of the things that we pride ourselves on is you know, obviously we do not wish this kind of additional pain to any of these students, families, youth school counselors, colleges, et cetera, right? Everybody, all the stakeholders have been impacted by this year's kind of a disaster of a FAFSA, but this is why we exist. We want people to be able to say, well, who do we turn to, right? We cannot get anybody on the phone at the Department of Education. When we do, their skill set, education, experience, et cetera, is only so limited, right? And for those of you that have talked to some of these folks, it's a little bit of a crapshoot of what type of, and I'm not trying to disparage any of these individuals or the Department of Education. That's just the reality. Okay. So we want to be that source of truth. So, last week we talked a lot about, well, 1 out of 5 FAFSAs, as we've found out and talked about, 1 out of 5 FAFSAs have pulled the incorrect tax information. So a lot of these colleges, okay, have collectively, okay, so that means that millions of FAFSAs are just wrong, a complete misrepresentation of these households. They are pulling in the wrong income. They're going to have the wrong SAI. So the awards are going to be wildly inaccurate, for better or for worse, right? Because they're just pulling irrelevant tax information for those particular families. How are we supposed to know, right? And so what we always do, right, and to anchor to for our source of truth, is make sure that your families, again, are at least creating their free cap accounts so they can see what their federal SAI actually is versus what it's saying in the Department of Education's website in their FSAID accounts, or what their awards are from the colleges, right? We have the exact, it's public information, the exact data tables, okay, the Department of Education uses. Ours are working. They're not glitching or anything like that. So we are going to be a very good source of truth in terms of what these families' SAIs should be. So we don't know of a better place to be able to instruct families where to go to get an idea of, are they one of these glitching FAFSAs? Are we one of these of families that 1 out of 20% of families that it pulled in the incorrect or relevant tax information? We want to know that now, so when we get these awards, or if we already have, is it based on our truth or not? Okay. Another thing that's happening next week, another kind of announcement here, is that every single FAFSA is going to be reprocessed. Right, hold on to your buckle up, everybody. Let's hope that goes smoothly. But every single process is going to be every single FAFSA is going to be reprocessed, with the hope and intention being that is going to correct the 20% of them that are essentially wrong. Okay, so this is happening again next week as well. But we don't need to wait for that. We can get an idea now whether or not our FAFSAs was one of the ones that was impacted. Let me make sure I'm getting back to some of these other questions here. Yeah. Yeah, so for returning college students at state schools and rising freshmen at CSS profile schools, does any of this provide for appeal openings? I mean, I guess my short answer is yes. It still falls under this broad blanket of again, adversity leading to opportunity. CSS profile schools, this is impacting everything less, right? Where they're really anchored to, and most of the CSS profile schools have given financial aid awards already, because and a lot of them have already looked at tax returns. So in short, CSS profile schools, they don't care about the FAFSA. It's just a formality, right? They are packaging their students based on what shows up on that CSS profile and their tax return. So does it provide an appeal opportunity? Totally, absolutely, for CSS profile schools, because I think same thing, just go appeal now as soon as you get that award, right? We don't have to wait for the FAFSA. We can already have an idea of what that award should look like, and again, it kind of falls within that, be at the front of the line, right, in terms of appealing here. I think less so at upperclassmen students that are appealing at state schools, but again, wild west this year, which can be a good thing for us as consumers here. Okay, have we noticed anything different about than this year with Pell Grants? In the past, Pell Grants were awarded to the highest need families. This year, I've seen students receive Pell Grants and with very little institutional grants, leaving gaps of 25, 30K. Okay, obviously there are institutions that don't meet full demonstrated need. I would chalk this up largely to the fact that that so many FAFSAs have been incorrect this year. Like usually if you're seeing something that seems wildly off in terms of a Pell Grant that's being awarded, based on the information that you know or your understanding of that family, that tells me this is one of the incorrect FAFSAs, right? Or this was one of these FAFSAs that never asked for income when it should have asked for income, type of deal, right? There were a lot of those glitches that happened at the earlier stages that have since been corrected, but that doesn't matter if your FAFSA was already submitted back in, back in the fall. So obviously every case is unique there, and that's probably not an all-encompassing answer, but that would be kind of my best guess if you're seeing some wonky stuff with the FAFSA, right? And for those of you that, again, another part of just the free version of the platform here is that families have the ability to upload their financial aid awards. The first thing that we do is translate them so they can understand these ever complex offers, help them understand what they're looking at, understand their what their truth is, right? What their actual award is, and then give an indication of how likely is it that you could appeal successfully, right? Did you get what this school says they give a family that meets your profile? What is your likelihood of an appeal, right? That's a very powerful part of the platform where we're kind of playing a third party watchdog to make sure that schools are being doing what they say they do kind of publicly, right? Are they meeting the percentage of need that they say that they meet, or not, right? And of course that or not happens all the time. And when it does, we want to make sure that families know that they fell in that category and that they should absolutely be appealing. And it also gives them an indication of what they should ask for, right? This is what we actually got this. It says that our family should get this. We would like to get what we should get. And so that's the dollar amount we might want to ask for. It allows families to anchor in that actual dollar amount, which is an important part of an appeal, as you all know from listening to us. Okay, so the question is, I'm a high school counselor that's also a parent, so God bless you, right? Doubly this year with church and state, we're dealing with it on all fronts here. So we can't appeal until we have the award, but we can do is get ours ready right now. So that's what we're coaching for, right? So you should have an idea, right? Set up your account so you know what you should receive from a college. So first of all, as soon as you get that award, you have an idea of, okay, is this about what I should expect from the school, A? And then B, just start thinking about, well, why are you going to appeal? Is it because you've got a more competitive offer? So you're appealing for more merit-based aid? Is it because you have some need-based scenarios that warrant an appeal? Maybe it's a private school that uses the institutional methodology and considers home equity fair game. That's always something we want to challenge. Or you're a business owner, always want to challenge that. Maybe you don't have anything that's really kind of obvious ammunition in which to challenge for this year, but there's still generic. You still want to appeal generically, and we shared that document last week that has kind of some actual templates for even if we want to appeal. Just again, we don't really have something to hang on. It looks like we got a kind of fair award. Doesn't matter. We want to push back, especially this year, especially in a timely manner. Right. So that's what I mean by what we can be doing now. You're right in that we can't submit the appeal until we get the award, but we want to have all of our homework done. So we're just making some slight tweaks to that letter. We know exactly how that school's appeal process works, right? You have the UPenns of the world that make appealing so freaking challenging that so many people give up. Of course, they do that strategically, right? Because they make you cut through all this red tape to even appeal. Then you have schools that are totally loosey-goosey. Hey, just send us a letter, tell us what's going on. We'll meet as a committee and get back to you. Understand how the college or colleges operate in terms of their actual appeal process. Understand, do we want to apply for a need-based appeal? Is it a merit appeal? Is it both, right? Who should be doing that? The student should be the loudest voice in the room when it comes to merit-based appeals. They should be seeking out their admissions counselor. The parent should be the loudest voice, or parents in most cases, if it's a need-based appeal. That's what the financial aid office, right? Again, we're going to walk through the X's and O's of all of this with parents and families tomorrow night. Yeah, someone's asking me to share that link again. Let me go grab it. So you can share that with your families. And here is something else that I want to make sure that we don't forget to announce. Now, I would imagine there's been a meaningful amount of you where maybe the families haven't even been able to submit their FAFSA yet, that whether it's the signature thing or there's just a lack of maybe it's English as a second language, so the students are largely doing this on their own, right? And or the parents are just not technically savvy, right? All these different things. Next Monday, so this Monday the 15th, I'm going to share this and let me just kind of actually it might be helpful to just here's a link where that you can share with your families for next Monday. But here's what we're doing. I think we talk a little bit about this on here. We're trying to have every single one on our team, and this is just a percentage of it, but everybody that's available, we've kind of challenged ourselves, right? To say again, like I think we do a decent job of to say like, well, what can we be doing to help? What can we be doing better? How can we have the biggest impact in helping families get through this, especially those that need the most help and don't have resources, can't book an hour one-on-one with somebody on our team or whatever. Their school doesn't have the ability to pay for our partnership, anything like that. So what we're doing is next Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern time, we have, and I think we have right now like 25 of us, 30 of us. I got to check on the biggest number, but we're going to do a quick education. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have these breakout rooms. And so we're going to try to literally get hands-on with these families and see if we can help them get their FAFSAs across the finish line, right? We've worked with thousands of families this year to do that. I don't know what the number is. It's probably tens of thousands. As a matter of fact, I think it is over that. So we've seen almost every version of FAFSA glitch under the sun and been able to troubleshoot ways to get it over the finish line, right? So we're just trying to help us. This night for next Monday is really for families that haven't been able to submit the FAFSA yet, and we're trying to just be as hands-on as possible with as many families as possible in order to do this, right? So this is just again, when we think internally, well, what can we do? We can't walk into every high school. We can't walk into every living room to work with all these families, right? Unfortunately, we just don't have the manpower, but this is our kind of best guess at this point for how to have as most impact as possible. So please share this link out for families that have not been able to submit the FAFSA yet. Or if you're kind of working hands-on with families and you want to get some more tips of how you might be able to get some of these glitchy ones across the finish line. I think it'll be a really good event, and at least for these families that have completely just like given up and been like, we have nowhere to turn. The Department of Education is no help. These colleges can't help us. This is what we're hoping can be, this is our best solution we have at this point. And we're obviously the goal is to get as many FAFSAs across the finish line that night with the tips that we'll share. I'm sure we won't bat 1,000, but our hope from there is we'll say, okay, great, write into us, tell us that what your problem's going on, and then from there we can continue to provide guidance for folks. So again, if you think that would be useful in your community, share that, and we will do our best. Yeah, so a question here about a student that seems to have not been able to submit the FAFSA as neither parent has a social security number. She tried entering zeros, but that didn't work. Is there a solution there? I know there is. I forget again what the best practice is for that off the top of my head, but I know lots of folks on my team have got a bunch of these across the finish line. My best recommendation there, Kevin, I think, is to have them show up next Monday or just write into us directly to see how we might be able to help them. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have that off the tip of my tongue. So in terms of how do we know if our FAFSA info was submitted incorrectly or not. You know, just because you didn't get an error or anything like that doesn't mean it got through kind of unscathed. Again, our recommendation in terms of what is your source of truth to get the best, and I'm not saying this is foolproof. I don't know that there is a foolproof solution here, but you know, make sure that they create. Let me share this link. I have not. Make sure that they create their account here. Okay, their college or you. It sounds like in this case for your daughter. If you haven't created your account, create your account here. Make sure that you answer your questions in your profile to the best of your ability. When we ask you about your 2023 income and the assets that you listed on the FAFSA, and we're going to give you a really good idea of what your SAI is. Usually we hit on the nose or pretty stinking close. If our SAI is pretty close to what you're seeing in terms of your SAI when you log into your FAFSA, you can feel really good that it pulled the correct tax information, right? If there is this huge discrepancy here, all the evidence we have seen so far is pointing to it's not a glitch on our side, it's a glitch on the Department of Education, your FAFSA side, and it pulled in, usually that means it pulled in the wrong tax information, right? Obviously, there could be user error and you put the wrong information on the FAFSA or in our platform here, but we don't know a better source of truth to kind of gut check whether or not yours was one of those that were impacted by the you know, by this pretty significant glitch in the FAFSA this year. Okay, here, and then let me just make sure that I have shared kind of the at least the headlines with these new FAFSA changes. I'm pretty sure that I have, and obviously this is a review of last week a little bit, but some new ones in here. Okay, this is kind of some in the weeds stuff, but these are, you know, if you had amended returns, you know, certainly that is going to be a glitch here. Some of the asset factors are going to change, right? Because the student contributions were done wrong for in terms of student assets, right? That was one of the big ones. Manually entered data was a problem here. The education tax credits, again, less of a significant impact in terms of how much it impacts the SAI, but a big number in terms of, you know, total submissions. 15% when you're looking at millions, we're talking about lots and lots of folks, right? But this is, again, kind of the actual language from the Department of Education in terms of speaking higher level to what all of these have in common. Okay. Yeah, so the question is here is they're a little bit confused by whether it's me, whether it's the Department of Education or both, that, you know, does it mean that an SAI could have gone out, a school could have put together a package, and now they're going to correct all of these FAFSAs, and inevitably, some of these financial aid packages that were based on the original SAIs are going to be completely thrown out and irrelevant and will change for better or for worse. That's correct, right? So that's why, again, we're in for another mess over these next couple of weeks, because some of these students have already been packaged, maybe signed on the dotted line, and then these colleges are going to say, oh, wait, no, wait a minute, that's irrelevant. Now, obviously, we're going to appeal that big time if these corrections do not go in our favor, and certainly, again, that's something that we're going to be ready to do, but you are absolutely right. There is going to be a percentage of families that fit in that scenario you just outlined there. But great question, and I do not blame you at all, you know, for being confused. It is confusing, right? And continues to be confusing. And again, just some other headlines that I kind of hit on here already, I believe. Yeah, so some folks may have already seen some changes in their SAI. It could have been from corrections that the colleges made already on their end. So That's not necessarily because all the corrections have been reprocessed. My guess would be that was probably based on a change that the college made, but they very likely had evidence for doing that. What I'm thinking is maybe your physical tax returns. So that would make me think that the offer that you got and the SEI you're looking at currently is probably representative of what it's going to be. Again, double check and see what it says and in your MyCap account. But yeah, that probably means your current reality is in fact your reality from an SAI standpoint. Okay, so I think again, that's the latest and greatest. More to come next week. Pay attention to us, right? We, as soon as those announcements come out, as soon as those corrections come out, as soon as the instructions for how to update your signature on your FAFSA come out, we will have our number one. We'll announce it in our terms, which I think are generally a little bit easier to digest, not kind of I don't know, lawyer speak type language. We'll have instructions, right? Peg usually always does a video, so she'll probably have a video that'll walk through, here's step by step. Let's spoon feed you in terms of how to correct this FAFSA. Make sure that your families are aware of our presentation tonight, that again, we will echo all of this, but it will focus on what they should be doing now, right? What should you be doing now to get ready for these appeals? If you already have should you be appealing now, or should you be preparing to appeal now? And how do you do that? What is best practice, especially this year? We actually have some financial aid counselors on with us tonight. Ryan from Harvard will be on tonight. And then I believe we have Laura Meek. So formerly she was at Denison. Now she's at the Columbia College of the Arts in Ohio. The both of them will be on. So it's great to kind of hear the college's perspective, and especially unique when they're talking about, here's how to appeal. Here's how we like to hear from parents. Here's how we're more likely to maybe increase an offer. And again, it'll be some good perspective to hear from them. This is what's going on behind the scenes, peeking behind the curtain at these colleges and how they're handling it. And we, by design, have some different types of schools in terms of your Harvards of the world and schools that use those type of models versus our more smaller schools. And we'll also have some insight just on state schools as well. But that's kind of the big get for tonight. So make sure that your families know that these resources are available to them. And then next week, again, especially for families that have not been able to get their FAFSA across the finish line, that's what that night's for. Where we're trying to kind of put our money where our mouth is in terms of being aligned with our mission and trying to help, right? Trying to make sure that we're folks know they have somewhere to go for these tricky ones here. Okay. Yeah, and tomorrow night is the parent webinar, not tonight, right? Tomorrow night is the parent webinar. We have a different event tonight that's for juniors and underclassmen, more focused on admissions side of the fence. But in terms of this stuff and families with their hair on fire around this stuff, that is where I would focus my efforts if I were you all in terms of our promotion. Obviously, everybody is always welcome to all of our events, but that's my recommendation there. And then again, next week is for folks, specifically for folks that have not been able to submit their FAFSA first. Families that have, tune in tonight for sure. Families that haven't, it's really that's what the 15th is designed for. So I'll stick around if there's a couple more questions that are coming in. Okay. Yeah, and again, oh yeah, okay. If anybody wants to share the junior event for this evening, hold on, give me a hot second. Grab that link as well. And we're just, like most of our events, we're focused on the affordability factor of this whole college search. So our the content tonight is like, as you're building your list of schools, how do you find out, what what schools are going to be good fits for your, so I just popped this link in there. What schools are going to be good fits for you and your family, that are also going to be affordable, and how you're supposed to know that stuff, right? So you're not flying blind as you go to tour schools this April vacation and this summer. How do we make sure that the way that we always put it is like, you don't want your kid test driving a Maserati if you're on a Camry budget type of deal, right? And I think that works kind of well for college of like, well, if we're going to New York City, let's just make sure we know where NYU fits on the affordability factor versus Columbia versus whatever, right? And there's nothing wrong, of course, with going to see every school just to get a feel for urban, big versus small and all that stuff. But I'm sure you guys all know these stories where it's really hard when a kid falls in love with a school and it's going to be just a really not a great financial outcome at the end of this thing. So that's what we're trying to avoid. And we think the best way to do that is now getting upstream, at this stage of the process, as opposed to when you're seniors, and you're having to have those conversations right now. Right, you all have been a part of plenty of those, I'm sure, and they're hard. They stink. Okay, so let me say I'll give it 2 minutes, and we'll give our kind of going once, going twice. And then again, obviously, as always, for those of you that don't partner with us specifically yet, please book some time with me, and we'll learn more about you and how we can help you further. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. I always appreciate your kind of dedication to the game here. Your grit is being tested, like all of us, this year, probably more than normal. So thanks for trusting us as a resource, and let us know how else we can help you, and we're here to do just that. Thank you, everybody.